happens to be the best performer amongst most of the precious metal stocks. Our guest today is Keith Neumeyer of First Majestic Silver and First Mining Finance. Keith, thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks, Daniel, and thanks for that introduction.
Well, Keith, I really mean that. You've helped a lot of people. I see the emails every day come in. People, some of them even make me laugh. They're like, Keith Neumeyer is my retirement plan. You are an overachiever. You're relentless when it comes to working. Every time I talk to you, you're in a different country. And I want to get a full update on the resource sector with you today, what happened at the Fed recently, and also an important update on First Mining Finance, which is your gold company that is less than a year and a half old. That's one of the fastest growing gold developers in the world, as well as First Majestic Silver, and even a new silver stock that you have publicly stated you'll be making a significant investment into it. So let's start off with the resource sector. Everybody was having fun. They're on their summer vacations, having a party because mining stocks are up 300-400%, and then we've had this gut-wrenching correction. Where are we in the junior resource sector?
Well, many people, our calls, or pardon me, our phone is ringing off the hook as well. We've had a lot of investors calling in over the last couple of weeks asking the same question, and some of the investors that are calling in have not ever invested in the mining sector before. So, your listeners need to know that the mining sector is extremely volatile. It's very much the same as the biotech sector. As the metal price moves, the stocks move, and the stocks tend to move exponentially. When the metal moves. So if the metal's down one day, the stocks are down even more. If the metal's up one day, the stocks are up even more that day. So, it's just the way it is. And if you look at, the whole bull run from 2002 to 2012, I can tell you that it did not go straight up. There was many, many times during that 10-year period that we thought, or many people thought, that the bull market was over, and it wasn't. It corrected for a period of a few months, and then it just exploded higher. And, that's what we're seeing now. This correction that is occurring as we see today or the last couple of weeks is the first correction since February.
That's truly incredible, because so many people, as Rick Rule often says, they base their most immediate experience off of their future most immediate expectations. And of course, the mining stocks did have a big run, specifically your companies. First Majestic Silver, it's the biggest winner in most people's portfolio. It's the world's most primary silver producer. And then First Mining Finance has been an amazing winner for people and still deeply undervalued at these levels. Keith, when it comes to the mining shares, how long do these corrections? And I'm trying to give people an idea who are first investing in these companies or this sector. What should be their expectation? I mean, do we go flat for a few months? Do you think? Do you think this is kind of just digesting and backfilling here, and then we'll be off to the races again? I guess to put it in the most understandable way, what inning are we in this bull market?
Well, absolutely the first inning, and I'm a big believer in seasonality. The stock market or the mining shares trade, very much on a seasonal basis, and there's really no reason for that except history. You can go back and look at 30-year charts and see that usually the summer is the low for the mining sector, and usually the winter, the December, January, February is usually when the mining sector is really doing well. This year was a little bit unique, because I was expecting to see a big correction in June, and quite honestly, well, everyone knows it didn't happen. The market just kept going and going and going, and it didn't start correcting until September. By that time, we've normally seen a couple of corrections because September, October as well aren't generally great months for the equity market. So, I'm expecting this correction to last probably a few more weeks. We got to probably get into October a little bit, and usually November, December, January are really the great months for these mining stocks. So this is the time that investors need to be looking at, I think, either adding to their positions or taking positions in good company.
Keith, I want to talk to you about the Federal Reserve real quick. You know, the mining sector in the news, everybody's always looking for an excuse of why is it slowing down, or a correction, or why is it going up? Why is gold going down? And of course, for the last year, going into the weeks before a Fed meeting, you know, gold's either up or gold's either down because, especially lately, because they think there's some sort of rate hike. What kind of predicament is the Fed in? Do you think we are going to see interest rates go up? And if they do, how is that going to affect the mining shares and physical gold and silver?
Well, you know, it's amazing to me that we're so driven by headlines. You know, it's really irrelevant, you know, what the Fed does. You know, it's you know, I wish they would just go raise the darn rate and just get it over and done with, you know, but they know that if they did that, you know, they would probably implode the S&P. You know, the U.S. stock market is really the last market in the world that has not corrected. You know, you look at stock markets all over the planet, every stock market's down, you know, between 15 and 25%. And yet the U.S. equity market is buoyed up by, you know, this manipulation and you know, being an election year as well is even more problematic because you've got, you know, Yellen there, who's a Democrat who, you know, wants to see Hillary get elected. So, you know, she surely doesn't want to see a stock market crash during a Democratic government, you know, potentially fueling more people to, you know, vote for Trump. So, you know, I think there's a lot to be said about, you know, the interest rates staying where they are for at least the foreseeable future. But, you know, when we see the rates go up or whether we see the rates go down, it's irrelevant to the price of gold. We're in the beginning of a bull market. Gold can go up in either a rising interest rate environment or a slowing interest rate environment.
Keith, you've talked about silver being one of the most undervalued assets, one of the biggest no-brainers, that we will see triple-digit silver in this next bull run. Many investors have partnered with you with First Majestic Silver, First Mining Finance. Before we get into the updates of those companies that you run, I do want to ask you about a company that you have publicly stated you're going to be a significant shareholder. I personally, at a full disclosure to everybody, I have also purchased shares of the company, and my newsletter covers it, and that's Silver One. So for people looking for more silver exposure, you know, obviously everybody's seen this year, silver can go up 40%, but the mining stocks can go up 4 or 5 times that, maybe 10 times that, plus. For Silver One, what is your expectations of for this company, that you have, publicly stated that it is going to be, something that's important in your portfolio to you?
Yeah, you're right about my comments regarding triple-digit silver. You know, I'm a big believer in silver, and, you know, and probably many of your listeners have heard me say probably 100 times that, you know, I'm a big believer in ratios as well. You know, we're currently mining 9 to 1. You know, 3 years ago we were mining 11 to 1, and so the ratio's dropping. We've been in deficit for silver for decades now, and, you know, it just surprises me that, you know, you could mine 9 ounces of silver for every 1 ounce of gold on a global basis, and you'd be trading at 70 to 1. That just doesn't make sense to me. So I believe I'm a bull on gold, but I'm even much more bull on silver. And, you know, the 3 assets that Silver One purchased were originally in First Majestic Silver some years ago, and we never got around to exploring them, you know, just because First Majestic's a different company. You know, it's you know, producing silver company. It doesn't have the time to really do a lot of exploration work on assets that's not producing from. You know, the exploration work that First Majestic does is always around its own mines and so on and so forth. So we sold those assets to First Mining Finance a few years ago, and First Mining's business plan is to find partners. And I was approached by a group, the Silver One group, and they had an idea, and I thought the idea was great because I do believe that there's a lack of really good silver exploration companies out there. And we did a deal whereby First Mining sold these assets. So we're very happy to be shareholders of Silver One, and I personally became a shareholder of Silver One as well as a result of that. And I think they've got a heck of a shot. I think they're going to actually drill these assets finally. You know, these 3 properties have never had a drill hole in them for at least 20 years. So it'd be really good to see these drill holes actually executed, because we know there's there's metal there. We just don't know how much there is. So they're going to go out there and drill these things out, and I think there'll be good news flow. And I think that you're also going to see Silver One start to acquire other silver projects. And I think that's going to start to get quite exciting as they are able to build their asset base out over the next months and year.
It is exciting to see this young silver company, especially with the team that it has on it. Some big heavyweights in the mining sector are running Silver One Resources. Moving on to First Mining Finance, this is almost a fruition of the business model, right? You have these assets,
Absolutely.
Now you've handed them to the project developers that are going to execute the project and advance it.
That's exactly the plan, and it's executing as expected and as we've been telling everyone, and we'll continue to do that with other projects in First Mining. If we could find a management team like the management team that's running Silver One and duplicate that in some other projects, we'll be very, very happy to do that. And if we do, I'll become shareholders of those companies as well. But Silver One is got a heck of a shot at building out a very nice silver portfolio. There's a real lack of good silver companies in the marketplace.
Keith, on First Mining Finance, for the first year and a half, massive acquisitions. I mean, you guys have pretty much, when it comes to exploration companies or acquisition companies, one of the fastest growing gold developers on earth. Certainly in Canada, you guys have taken a dominant role. What should be shareholders? Because many people listening to this show right now have taken a position in First Mining Finance. They have enjoyed the gains, the triple-digit gains, and they've also enjoyed watching this company grow. I mean, every week, every month, there's new acquisitions, new press releases. Going forward, let's look forward for the next year, next 2 years. What should the expectations be? Is it still in acquisition mode, or are we now moving more closer to phase 2?
Well, investors have to, learn to be patient. The company's only been in business for 15 months or 16 months, so it's a very, very early or very, very new company. And then, if you look back at what I did in my previous companies, it takes years to build a billion-dollar company, and then a number of things have to happen over that period of time. First Mining Finance is run by obviously a very good team of individuals, and we've been able to acquire an extraordinary group of assets. 28 projects, 14 million ounces of gold. In jurisdictions that are very safe and great infrastructure, and a good chunk of the portfolio that First Mining owns today will become future mines, as far as I'm concerned. But it's not going to happen tomorrow. It takes time, and then good partners take time to come in, and I think that the metal price is going to go a lot higher over the next year or two, and I don't want to be too quick in partnering out some of our projects, because I think that we could get much higher values for much of our portfolio. So I'm going to be patient and find good partners to partner with to advance the portfolio. And as these partnerships and announcements come out over time, the share price will, of course, move, I would expect, over that period. And we will continually move forward and then build what I expect will become a billion-dollar company over the next few years.
Certainly one of the more exciting companies, without a doubt, since its launch. I mean, we've seen hostile takeovers. We've seen many companies where you've just outright taken them over.
Daniel, no one's done what we've done. There's not a single mining company in the planet that's bought 8 companies in 13 months. And what allowed that to happen is the perfect storm. And then, many of your listeners probably know that the equity markets in the gold sector got so ridiculously cheap that these companies that we bought were basically bankrupt. They had no real choice. And when we put together our list of targets over the last couple of years, we actually, out of the 8 companies that we actually ended up buying, 6 of those companies were in our top 10 target list. So these are some of the best gold assets on the planet that we currently own in our portfolio.
That's truly amazing. For First Majestic Silver, it's been a big winner for everybody, and for silver investors especially, when they go looking around to purchase a silver producer, we talked about this on our last interview. There really aren't that many. I mean, even everybody who thinks that they're silver producers, or even the companies that are in like the silver ETF, for mining shares, these companies, less than half their revenue actually comes from silver. They actually could be equally called a base metal mining company or a gold company. For First Majestic Silver, you're near right around 70% of revenues coming from silver. For people who own First Majestic Silver, I personally think the stock is, if silver is going to triple digit, I'm not going to put a price target on it, but I think First Majestic will go a lot higher. What should investors expect, and what's a company update for First Majestic Silver?
Well, you're right about the purity. It's something that is very, very important to me, when we're looking at acquiring things, or we're looking at, expanding our assets. We're doing an expansion right now at one of our mines, the Licantata mine. And once that expansion is completed, which will be by the third quarter of 2017, that mine will produce an extra 1.5 million ounces of silver annually. So our purity will actually go from around 70%, where it currently is, to over 80%. So making us, absolutely without a doubt, the purest silver company in the world. And it is quite shocking to me, because when I put this company together 14 years ago, there was legitimately a handful of silver companies. And all those companies have become gold companies or base metal companies. And you talk to the executives that run those companies today, and they'll be quite honest with you, and they'll say simply, we could not find silver mines, and in order for us to grow, we had to diversify into other metals. And that's the story. And that tells you right there that silver mines are rare animals, and a lot rarer than people think they are. And First Majestic has a very, very unique portfolio of 6 producing silver mines, 2 development projects, which we hope to build over the next few years. So within 3 to 5 years, I expect that we'll have 8 producing silver mines in Mexico, and there's no one else in the space that can say that.
Yeah, all of these companies, full disclosure, I own every single one of them. I'm very bullish on them, and I'm also, recommending these companies to our subscribers. Keith Neumeyer, thank you so much for your time. You're one of the good guys in the mining industry, one of these people that I feel strongly that people need to attach themselves to the companies you are involved in. Certainly